colony sat on the edge of the stars, far from Earth, far from any other world. A cold sun hung above, and steel domes kept the humans safe from storms and strange winds. Inside those domes, people worked, laughed, and lived as if they had brought a piece of old Earth with them, but not everyone was welcome there. There was one girl, small, thin, always standing at the edge of the crowd. Her name was whispered in disgust, though never to her face. To them, she was not a neighbor, not a friend. She was a shadow moving through their perfect world. The reason was simple. When she walked by, people covered their noses. When she passed, children giggled and pointed. Mothers pulled their sons and daughters away. She carried with her a strange smell, an odor sharp, heavy, impossible to ignore. No soap could wash it away. No water could hide it. It clung to her skin, her hair, her very breath. To the people of the colony, she was cursed. To her, it was simply who she was. She had tried to belong. She had tried to sit in schoolrooms, to share meals, to join games. But every time, the same thing happened. Whispers, mocking faces, chairs moving back, doors closing. And soon, she learned it was easier to stay alone. Her days became quiet. She would wander the outer fields where machines tilled alien soil, or sit near the cold glass of the dome and watch storms roll across the horizon. She spoke little, laughed never, but always dreamed. Dreamed of one day finding a place where she would not be unwanted. But dreams are fragile things. At night, the colony lights dimmed and the hum of machines fell silent. That was when the loneliness struck hardest. She would lie awake in her small room at the farthest edge of the habitat, listening to the distant echoes of laughter from families together. Sometimes she pressed her face into her pillow, trying to smother her own quiet And yet, even through her sorrow, she felt something else, a strange awareness, as if the dark itself was watching her, as if eyes she could not see were waiting just beyond the steel walls of the dome. She told herself it was her imagination. After all, who would watch her? Who would care? The days passed, each one the same. She walked through the markets where merchants sold fruit and spice, but no one looked her in the eye. She carried tools to repair the farm drones, but workers moved aside as if she carried a disease. She returned home, always alone. Her only company was silence. Her only friend was the sound of her own footsteps. But sometimes, just sometimes, when she looked to the glass walls of the dome at dusk, she thought she saw movement in the forests beyond. A flicker of light, a shifting shadow, too fast, too quiet. The forests were forbidden, dangerous. Strange things lived there, things no human dared approach. Still, she felt them near. Still, she felt their gaze. The people of the colony whispered that her smell was unnatural. They whispered that no human could carry such a stench unless they were cursed. Some even said she was not truly human at all. And though the girl tried to ignore their words, late at night those whispers became her own fears. What if they were right? What if she was not like them? Her loneliness grew heavier each passing day, a weight pressing against her chest. She longed for one kind word, one gentle hand, one voice that did not mock. But kindness never came. Only silence, only distance. And then, one evening, something changed. She had walked to the edge of the colony as she often did, where the glass wall curved high above and the alien forest loomed beyond. The sun was sinking, painting the sky in red and gold. Shadows stretched long and thin across the ground. She pressed her hand against the cold glass and whispered to herself, "Why me?" Her voice trembled. The words vanished into the silence. But from beyond the glass, something moved. It was not the shifting of trees. It was not the ordinary dance of shadows. It was a figure, tall, still, watching her. Her breath caught in her throat. She stepped back, heart pounding, eyes fixed on the shape. For a moment, she thought it was another cruel trick of her tired mind. But no, the figure remained. And then, it raised its head. Even through the glass, even through the distance, she felt it. Not disgust, not hate, but recognition. The girl shivered. She did not know who or what was watching her. But deep inside, she understood one thing. Her life was about to change. Forever. The next morning came, but it brought no comfort. The girl rose from her narrow bed, washed her face in cold water, and tied back her dark hair. She tried, as always, to appear normal, to appear strong, but the truth clung to her like the odor she could never escape. When she stepped outside, the world greeted her with silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the sharp, heavy silence of people who wished she was not there. Neighbors at the water pump turned their heads. A group of children playing in the dust suddenly scattered, their laughter turning to whispers as she walked past. She kept her eyes down, her P.S. steady. She had learned long ago that meeting their gaze only made the sting worse. Her work for the day was simple. She was sent to check the farm drones that tilled the thin alien soil outside the colony walls. It was a task no one else wanted, which made it the perfect job for her. Alone with machines, no company but the hum of engines. The guards at the gate let her pass, though even they stepped back as she approached. One muttered under his breath, "Rot stink." The other smirked but said nothing. She heard it all the same. Beyond the walls, the wind carried the smell of iron and dust. Strange birds with wings like blades soared above the trees. The girl worked with her hands, checking gears, fixing wires, wiping dirt from the sensors. Here, away from the colony, she could breathe. The machines did not mock her. The forest did not turn its face away. And yet, even there, she was not free. Every so often, she would feel it, the weight of eyes on her. She would pause, tools in hand, and glance toward the tree line. The shadows there were thick, restless. Leaves shifted though no wind blew. Once she swore she saw a shape slip between the trees, tall and swift. Her heart raced each time. She wanted to run back, to hide within the walls. But another part of her, a secret part, wanted to step closer, to see what waited for her in the dark. Still, fear always won. She returned to her machines, pretending nothing had happened. When she came back through the gates, dust clinging to her clothes, a group of children followed at a distance. They pinched their noses, making faces. One boy called out, "Don't come near the wells, you'll poison the water." Laughter followed him like a cruel echo. The girl's face burned red, but she said nothing. She had learned silence was her only shield. Words would only bring sharper stones. That night, she sat in the dim light of her room. A single lantern burned low, casting long shadows across the walls. She tried to eat her ration bread, but each bite felt heavy. Loneliness sat at her table like an invisible guest. She whispered to herself, the only voice she had, "Why do they hate me so much?" Her words broke in the air, unanswered. Tears threatened, but she fought them back. She would not give the colony the power of her sorrow. She had survived this long. She could survive another day. But still, that feeling, the Watcher. It returned as the night deepened. She felt it through the glass dome walls, through the steel bones of the colony. A presence just beyond the reach of light. It was not the cruel laughter of humans. It was not the empty silence of machines. It was something else, something patient, something that waited. She lay awake, eyes wide in the darkness, listening. At first, all she heard was the hum of air vents. Then, a sound, faint, distant, almost like a low call carried on the wind. Her heart thudded. She sat up in bed, straining to hear, but the sound faded. The colony remained quiet. She told herself she had imagined it. She told herself it was nothing, but sleep did not come easily. Days passed, and each one pressed harder on her spirit. Work in the fields, whispers in the market, doors that closed when she walked by, nights filled with strange silence and the sense of unseen eyes. Her strength was fading. She could feel it. The loneliness was no longer just inside her. It was around her, in every breath she took. Even the air seemed to reject her. And then came the breaking point. She had gone to the market for supplies, a jar of oil, a small sack of grain. She carried them in her in arms, keeping her head low. But at the corner of the square, she slipped on a loose stone. The sack tore open. Grain spilled across the ground in a golden river. The crowd turned. Instead of helping, they laughed. One man sneered, "Even the ground rejects her." Another spat near her feet. The children pointed, mocking her again with pinched noses. Her throat burned. She wanted to scream, to fight, to ask why, but no sound came, only silence. She gathered what little she could and ran. She did not stop until she reached the far edge of the colony, where the glass wall looked out into the forest. There she collapsed, breath ragged, tears streaking her cheeks. She pressed her hand against the cold glass and whispered, "If there is anyone out there, anyone at all, see me." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, movement. Deep in the trees, a shadow stirred. Her breath froze. A shape, a figure, watching, waiting. And this time, it did not vanish. This time, it stepped closer. The forest beyond the dome was dark, alive with whispers of leaves and distant cries of strange beasts. For years, the girl had stood behind the safety of glass, staring out at the wild world. But this time was different. This time, the shadow moved closer. Her heart pounded as the figure stepped from tree to tree, its shape tall and deliberate. Not like the scampering animals, not like the flicker of wind. It walked with purpose. And its eyes, yes, she could see them now, shimmered faintly in the gloom. The girl pressed her trembling hand against the glass wall. Every part of her body screamed to run, to hide, to pretend she had seen nothing. But another part, a quieter, deeper part, held her still. The figure stopped. For a moment, it only watched her. Then, slowly, it lifted one hand, not in threat, not in mockery, in greeting. Her breath caught. She whispered to herself, Someone sees me." The figure lowered its hand and turned, melting back into the forest. Her heart twisted with sudden panic. She could not let it go. Not now, not when she had finally been seen. Without thinking, she rose to her feet. That night, while the colony slept, she slipped past the gates. The guards were drowsy, their eyes heavy, their minds far from her. She moved like a shadow, her odor ignored in the quiet. And then she was outside, the alien wind pressing against her skin, the forest waiting. For the first time, she crossed the line between safety and wilderness. The air outside the dome was sharp and strange, filled with scents her nose had never known. Flowers that glowed faintly in the dark, bark that bled silver sap, insects humming like living wires. Every sound seemed louder, every step heavier. But she walked on, following the place where the figure had vanished. Branches clawed at her arms, roots tangled beneath her feet. Still, she pressed deeper. Her fear was real, but stronger still was her hunger, for answers, for connection, for anything beyond the cruelty of her people. Then, in a small clearing, she found it. The figure stood waiting. It was not human, tall, lean, its skin faintly ridged, as though made of stone and flesh together. Its eyes glowed faint green, watching her with calm patience. Its face was strange yet not monstrous. Its stance was still, almost careful, as if not to frighten her. Her knees weakened. Words caught in her throat. She could not speak, could not breathe. At last the figure spoke. Its voice was low, steady, carrying a rhythm she did not understand, but the words formed clear in her mind, as though translated by something beyond sound. "I know that scent." The girl froze. Her odor, the curse of her life, the mark that had driven her into shadows. This creature did not flinch from it, did not mock, it recognized it. Her lips parted. You know me?" The alien tilted its head. "Not you, but your kind. Long ago." Her heart raced. Confusion filled her, yet hope sparked inside her chest. "My kind? What do you mean? I am human." The creature's gaze held hers, deep and unblinking. Human and not. The girl staggered back, shaking her head. No, I'm just different, just broken." But the alien took one step forward, calm, unthreatening. "You are not broken. That's scent. Your people call it curse. We call it bond. A bridge between worlds." His words struck her like thunder. A bridge? All her life she had been shunned, hated, mocked. Now a stranger from the forest told her she was not cursed at all, but marked. Marked by something greater than she could imagine. Her voice trembled. "Why me?" The alien did not answer at once. It studied her, as if weighing the truth she was ready to hear. Then slowly it said, "Because you carry what they have forgotten. You are not alone, child of two bloods. You never were." She stared at him, her mind spinning. Child of two bloods. The words burned inside her. Was it true? Could it be true? That her life of pain, her endless loneliness, had a meaning beyond cruelty? Yet before she could ask more, a sound tore through the forest. A distant howl, low, guttural, alien. The trees shook as if something vast had stirred. The alien's gaze snapped toward the noise. For the first time, she saw tension in its stance. "They come," he murmured. The girl shivered. "Who?" His glowing eyes returned to her. "Those who hunt the bond." Her breath caught in her throat. Fear gripped her, but behind it, something else. a terrible realization. The life she thought empty, meaningless, cursed, was not just hers anymore. She was part of something bigger, and that something had enemies. The forest was alive with echoes. The howl faded into silence, but the girl's heart still hammered in her chest. She stood frozen, staring at the alien stranger who had spoken words she could hardly believe. "You are not broken," he had said. "You are a bridge." Now, with danger close, she wanted answers. The alien stepped closer, careful and calm, as though moving too fast might break her. His strange eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "You must listen," he said. "What I tell you now is truth your people have forgotten. A truth buried because it frightened them." The girl swallowed hard. All her life she had begged for answers. Now they stood before her, yet her hands shook. She whispered, "Tell me, please." The alien nodded slowly. "Long ago, before this colony, before your kind spread across the stars, there was war. Not with us, not with my people, but between humans themselves. They feared the unknown, feared each other. They closed their hearts, built walls, even as they reached for the skies." His voice was low, steady, carrying weight older than the forest around them. "But there were some," he continued, "who chose another path. They sought peace with worlds beyond their own. They looked at us not with hate, but with hope. They reached out, and in reaching, they bound us together." The girl's breath caught. She tried to speak, but he lifted a hand. That bond was more than words. It was more than treaty or trade. It was life, a joining of bloodlines, a weaving of human and not human into one, a bridge. Her knees trembled. The world seemed to tilt around her. "You mean, me?" she whispered. The alien's gaze held hers unblinking. "Yes, your scent is not curse. It is the mark of that bond. To us, it is a song carried on the wind. It tells us who you are." Her eyes burned with sudden tears. All the years of mocking, the endless whispers, the pain of being unwanted. It twisted inside her now, sharp and bitter. "They hated me," she said, her voice shaking. "They treated me like dirt. They said I was cursed, that I didn't belong, and all this time it meant I was something more." The alien did not answer with words. Instead, he placed his hand against his chest, a gesture of respect, almost like a bow. "You are rare," he said softly. "Precious. A living bridge between two peoples. You are proof that peace was once possible, and because of this, you are also in danger." Her stomach nodded. "Danger?" His eyes darkened. "There are those who hunt the bond, those who fear what you are. To them, your scent is a beacon. They will come for you, and they will not stop." The girl felt the ground slip beneath her. The colony had shunned her, hated her, but at least she had been ignored. Now the truth meant she was no longer invisible. She was hunted. She shook her head. "Why me? Why would they care about one girl? I'm nobody." The alien's voice grew firm. "You are not nobody. You are the last sign of a promise your kind has tried to erase. To destroy you would be to destroy that hope forever." The girl's throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, to push the words away, but deep inside, she felt the truth of them. She had always been different, always marked. Perhaps her difference was never meant to be hidden. She whispered, "What do I do?" The alien looked toward the forest, toward the shadows that seemed to stir with each breath of wind. "You must decide if you will remain hidden, or if you will rise." Her hands clenched at her sides. Rise? How could she rise when she had never even stood tall, when she had never been given a chance to belong? The alien seemed to read her thoughts. "You believe yourself weak because you have suffered alone, but strength grows in silence, in struggle. You have carried more pain than many could endure. That is not weakness. That is power." She stared at him, her chest tight, her mind racing. All her life she had believed the lie, that she was cursed, that she was less, that she would never matter. But now a stranger from the shadows had told her she was more important than she could imagine, that her very existence was proof of something greater. And yet, fear coiled inside her. Because if he was right, then the world was far more dangerous than she had ever dreamed. The alien's head lifted suddenly. His sharp gaze swept the trees. "They are close," he said. "We must move." Her body froze. "Who? The ones who hunt me?" He nodded. "Your scent calls them. It always has. You have been spared only because they did not know you yet. But tonight, They have found your trail." Her breath came fast and shallow. She wanted to run back to the colony, to hide behind its walls, even if its people hated her. But she knew deep inside the walls would not save her. The alien extended his hand toward her. His fingers were long, ridged like stone but steady. "If you trust me, I will guide you. If not, you will face them alone." The girl's hand shook as she stared at his. Behind her lay a colony that despised her. Ahead of her lay a stranger with truths too heavy to carry. But in the distance, through the dark forest, she heard the howl again. Louder this time. Closer. Her choice was no longer hers to delay. The girl's life had always been quiet, hidden in the shadows of the colony. But after that night in the forest, nothing was quiet anymore. She returned through the gates at dawn, her steps unsteady, her mind burning with the alien's words. "You are not broken, you are a bridge." Those words echoed in her chest like a heartbeat. Yet even as she tried to keep her head low, something had changed. People noticed her more. At first it was only glances. A woman at the water pump stared too long. A guard at the gate frowned, his nose twitching. The children who once only mocked her now watched her with wide, uncertain eyes. And then came the whispers. "They say her smell is worse now." "No, stronger, like it's spreading. Maybe she carries something dangerous." The girl kept walking, trying not to hear, but she knew the truth. The alien had warned her. Her scent was growing. What her people called curse was actually signal. It called to others. At night, alone in her room, she pressed her hands to her face and tried to breathe slowly. But even she noticed it. The odor was sharper now, heavier, impossible to ignore. No water could hide it. No cloth could smother it. It clung to her skin like fire. She remembered the alien's words. "It is bond, a song on the wind." But to the colony, it was only fear. One evening, she entered the market. People moved away more quickly than before. A merchant who once only ignored her now hissed, "Don't bring that rot near my stall." His voice carried across the square. Heads turned. Murmurs rose. Her throat tightened. She hurried through, clutching her sack of grain close to her chest. But as she left, she caught fragments of their voices. "She is not right. She is not fully human. She should be cast out before she brings ruin." Her legs shook. She wanted to scream the truth at them, that she was not cursed, that her scent was not poison, that she was something more, but she could not. They would not listen. That night, the feeling of being watched returned stronger than ever. She sat by her small window, staring out at the dark forest. Shadows shifted. Leaves trembled, though no wind stirred. The alien's voice still lingered in her memory. "Those who hunt the bond will come." And she knew now. They were close. The colony, blind to the truth, had begun to feel it too. Fear crept into every corner. Guards doubled their patrols. Hunters sharpened their weapons. Even those who once ignored her now eyed her with suspicion. She was no longer invisible. She was a target. The next morning, she overheard two workers speaking outside her door. "She has grown dangerous," one said. "We should tell the council." "And what will they do?" the other asked. "Lock her away? Cast her out? Better that than let her scent bring death to us all." Her stomach turned cold. She pressed her ear to the wall, trembling. They truly believed she was a threat, and soon the council would act. That evening, as the sky burned red with the setting sun, she slipped again to the dome's edge. She pressed her forehead to the glass, whispering into the silence. "Stranger? Are you still out there?" For a long time, nothing answered. The forest remained still. But just when she was about to give up, a faint shimmer of eyes appeared in the trees, watching, waiting. Relief washed through her. She was not completely alone. But fear followed close behind. Because if the alien could find her so easily, so could others. That night, she dreamed of footsteps echoing through the colony halls, heavy boots, harsh voices, doors being forced open, and at the center of it all, her, taken, bound. She woke drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. But the nightmare was no lie. The threat was real. The next day, the whispers grew louder. The children no longer mocked her. They screamed and ran at her passing. A woman crossed herself as if to ward off evil. A guard spat the word, "Monster." Her chest ached. The colony had never loved her. But now it seemed they might truly hate her. And yet, another truth pressed against her mind. The alien had said her scent was bond, bridge, proof of peace. If that was true, then her existence mattered. more than she could imagine. She was no longer just a girl at the edge of the colony. She was a key, but keys often unlocked doors others wanted closed. As night fell once more, the howl returned, louder, closer. This time, even the colony heard it. Guards shouted from the walls, lights blazed, people gathered in fear, whispering of beasts in the dark. The girl stood at her window, her breath caught in her throat. She knew the truth. The hunters had come, and her scent was leading them straight to the colony. The colony had never known fear like this. The howl that ripped through the night was not just sound, it was a promise of death. It shook the walls, rattled the windows, and froze every heart. Guards scrambled along the watchtowers, shouting orders. Families gathered in their homes, clutching their children tight. And at the center of it all was her. The girl stood at her window, trembling. She knew the truth. The hunters had come. The sound was no beast. It was the call of those who sought her scent. The very mark of her existence had drawn them here. Panic spread quickly. People whispered in the streets, "This is her fault. She brought this on us. Cast her out before they breach the walls." The words cut deep, but they were no surprise. All her life they had hated her. Now, with death at their gates, their hate turned sharp and desperate. But something else cut even deeper. She could hear children crying. She could see families huddling in terror. These same people had mocked her, shunned her, spit at her feet. And yet, in their fear, they looked just as small and helpless as she had always felt. Her chest ached. The alien's voice returned to her memory. True humanity is not in blood, but in choice. What choice would she make? The howls grew louder. Branches snapped outside the dome. The guards opened fire into the dark, but their weapons lit nothing but trees. Shadows moved between the trunks, fast and many. Then, impact. The colony walls shook as something struck them. A deep boom rolled through the ground. People screamed, children wailed. The girl backed away from her window, heart hammering. She wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at her to hide, but a stronger voice inside whispered, "If you run, they will die. If you do nothing, their blood will be on your hands." Her knees weakened. She had dreamed her whole life of belonging. Now the choice of belonging stood before her, not in acceptance from her people, but in the chance to protect them. Another crash. Metal groaned. Somewhere, alarms wailed. And then, a voice. Low, steady, familiar. "You must stand." She turned. In the corner of her small room, the alien stranger stood as if he had stepped through the very shadows. His eyes glowed faint green, his face calm despite the chaos. Her breath caught. "They'll kill me. They'll never forgive me." "They don't need to forgive you," he said. "They only need to see you, to see what you are." Tears burned her eyes. "And what am I?" He placed a hand over his chest. "You are the bridge. You are proof of more than fear. Tonight you must choose if you will live as curse or as hope." The walls shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling. Shouts rang from the streets. Her hands clenched. Fear warred with anger, anger with sorrow. These people had never given her kindness, not once. Yet now they were at the mercy of the hunters she had drawn here. Her voice broke. "If I help them, if I fight, they will still hate me." The alien's gaze softened. "Perhaps, but humanity is not measured by what you receive. It is measured by what you give." Her chest tightened. For a moment, she saw herself not as the girl who was mocked, but as the one standing between two worlds, the one who could choose. Outside, a scream pierced the night. The gates had broken. She ran. Through the streets she raced, past terrified families and guards who barely noticed her. Smoke rose from the broken gate, and through the gap poured figures, tall, armored, their eyes like cold fire, the hunters. The colony opened fire, but their weapons barely slowed the creatures. One guard was struck down in an instant, his body crumpling like paper. The people screamed, they scattered, the hunters advanced, and there, at the center of it all, the girl stepped forward. The hunters froze. Their heads turned toward her as one. They sniffed the air, their glowing eyes narrowing. They had found the scent. The people gasped. Some shouted, "It's her! She brought them here!" Others cried, "Give her to them! Maybe they'll leave us be!" Her chest ached at the words, but she did not stop. She stood tall, her small frame trembling, but unbroken. The alien appeared beside her, his stance calm, protective. The lead hunter growled, a sound like grinding stone. He raised a weapon of black steel, pointing it at her chest. The crowd shrieked. The girl's heart thundered. This was the moment. Her choice. Her test. She lifted her chin. For the first time, she did not hide her scent. She let it spill into the air, sharp and heavy. The hunters growled louder, but they did not strike. They waited, sensing something more. Behind her, the people cowered, the same people who had hated her. Before her stood death itself, and in her chest burned the alien's words. True humanity is not in blood, but in choice. Her choice was now. She opened her mouth, her voice steady despite the fear. If it is me you want, then you will face me, but you will not touch them. The hunters stilled. The alien's glowing eyes flicked toward her, and for the first time she saw pride there. The test had begun. The night burned with fire and fear. The hunters stood at the shattered gate, their black armor gleaming in the torchlight. Their eyes glowed like cold embers as they fixed on the girl. She stood alone before them, small, fragile, unarmed, and yet unshaken. Behind her, the colony huddled in terror. Mothers clutched children. Guards raised useless weapons. Voices shouted in panic. Many cried out, "Give her to them! She is the one they want! Sacrifice her and save us all!" The girl's heart clenched, but she did not step back. She did not cry. She raised her chin, her voice steady. "You hated me. You shunned me. You said I was cursed. But I will not let you die. Not tonight." The crowd fell silent. Even the hunters paused. Beside her, the alien stranger's eyes glowed faint green. His voice rumbled low. "Now, let them see you." The girl closed her eyes, took a breath, and let go. Her scent, once a burden, once her curse, spilled into the air like a wave. Sharp, heavy, strong. It rolled, led across the battlefield, cutting through smoke and fire, pressing into every breath. The humans gagged, covering their faces, but the hunters froze. Their weapons lowered, their glowing eyes flickered, uncertain. The leader growled, stepping forward, but he did not strike. Instead, he tilted his head, as though listening to something unseen. The alien whispered, "They feel it. They know who you are." The girl opened her eyes. She met the leader's burning gaze and spoke with all the strength in her chest. "You will not touch them. If it is me you seek, then face me. But I will not allow you to harm the innocent." Her words rang in the silence. The hunters shifted uneasily. Their growls deepened. They circled her, but none dared strike. The leader's eyes narrowed, his voice a rumble like thunder. "You are bond." The girl's heart skipped. Bond, the same word the alien had used. The leader lowered his weapon. The hunters stepped back. For the first time, the people of the colony watched as their feared outcast stood tall before death itself, and was spared. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The girl's knees trembled, but she held her ground. She raised her voice, not just for the hunters, but for all who cowered behind her. "You said I was cursed, but I am not. I am proof that humans are more than fear, more than hate. I am proof that we can stand as bridge, not as monsters, not as enemies, but as something greater." Her words cut through the night. The hunters let out low growls, but none advanced. The leader turned his head to the alien beside her. Recognition flickered between them. Then, with a sharp gesture, he barked a command. Slowly, the hunters withdrew. One by one, they slipped back into the shadows of the forest, their glowing eyes fading into the dark. The colony stared, stunned. The invincible threat had retreated, not because of their weapons, not because of their strength, but because of the girl they had cast aside. Silence followed, heavy, awkward. Then, from the back of the crowd, a small voice whispered, "She saved us." Another joined, louder, "She stood for us." And slowly, the whispers spread. The same people who had mocked her now looked at her with new eyes, not of disgust, but of awe. The guards lowered their weapons. The families stepped closer. Faces once twisted with hate now held shame and respect. The girl's chest heaved. Her strength nearly broke, but she stood tall, her eyes shining with tears. The alien placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was quiet, but strong. "Tonight, they saw your true humanity." For the first time in her life, the girl felt something she had never known. Not fear, not hate, but belonging. The colony did not cheer. They did not rush to embrace her, but they saw her, truly saw her. And in that moment, it was enough. The alien turned to leave, his form fading back into the forest shadows. She called after him, "Will I see you again?" His glowing eyes met hers one last time. "You will not need me, not anymore. Humanity has found you." And then he was gone. The girl stood alone at the broken gate, behind her the colon, as her people watched in silence. Before her the dark forest stretched endless and unknown. Her life would never be the same. Shunned for her odor, despised for her difference, yet it was that very difference that saved them all. She lifted her head high, and for the first time, her heart was light. Because she was no longer the cursed outcast. She was the bridge, and she was remembered not for her odor, but for her humanity.